Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Family Sedan channel. Attorney John Deaton was right. You may recall that towards the beginning part of this year, 2022, what a dumpster fire it's been by and large. I'm still having a great time, though, despite that being the case. Attorney John Deaton stated at the outset of the year that he was confident that before the year was out, the SEC would end up suing a major cryptocurrency exchange. It's just part of what seemed to be a natural evolution in Kim Jong-Gensler's attack against all things crypto. And you know what? Attorney John Deaton was right. We did get that lawsuit. And it came, not for a reason we were expecting, but it was FTX. The SEC has officially gone after Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX, which is now bankrupt, as a result of that. And so, yes, admittedly, of course, it's for a reason that he, or well, really none of us would have guessed. The SEC did still do that. And frankly, as a result of that, I think, if anything, the SEC is just emboldened, especially by the posturing. If you look at Kim Jong-Gensler, what he's been doing, he's ready to go in a guns a-blazing. So there's a very good argument to be made that things are going to get way worse before they get better on this front. But there are a lot of moving parts to consider, and I want to talk a bit about that. And then there's also this story from the Daily Hodl that I found interesting. This will be the last thing that I cover in this video. A former Alameda CEO admits to using FTX customer deposits to repay loans on risky investments. Report. And so I found it very interesting to read through specifically what Caroline Ellison, former CEO of Alameda Research, was willing to admit, and also completely throwing Sam Bankman-Fried, that little butt nugget with a fro, just completely tossing him under the bus. I like to see it. I take pleasure in that. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a legal or financial background of any kind. I'm not offering legal or financial advice. And you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. So into the first piece. The chair of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission reportedly says that a crackdown on the crypto industry is imminent in the wake of FTX's high-profile collapse. According to a new report by Bloomberg, SEC Chair Gary Gensler says that the regulatory agency is coming after crypto firms that don't comply with its rules and compares such companies to casinos. Quote, "The runway is getting shorter. The casinos in this Wild West are non-compliant intermediaries," end quote. And this is so fake and nonsense and BS-ish. Because you just think about what has actually unfolded over 2022. Yes, of course, FTX, outright Ponzi scheme. We can all get behind the fact that that's awful, and throw the book at SBF and the rest of them. Fine, but Kim Jong-Gensler was meeting with the fraudster in person. Where were you, SEC? Of course, not taking any sort of actual responsibility themselves for not being able to, in any sort of meaningful way, be the cop on the beat, as Kim Jong-Gensler likes to characterize the SEC's role, the cop on the beat. Well, you done failed then, because you met with an outright Ponzi scammer right under your freaking nose, and you couldn't sniff that one out. That is astonishing. What an amazing failure that is by Kim Jong-Gensler here. So, I anticipate that you are going to see what Attorney Deaton predicted continue to play out. So yes, we already saw this lawsuit against FTX, and it wasn't for the reasons that necessarily Attorney Deaton was anticipating, but that doesn't mean that he won't continue to be correct leading into the future. What, you think they're not going to come after Coinbase and other exchanges? I'd be shocked. And part of what is going to determine to what degree that happens, what the next steps are, the mode of attack for the SEC, a lot of that's going to have to do with what happens in the SEC v. Ripple case. And look, even if the SEC suffers an outright loss, which I'm hoping so, at least in terms of XRP, at a minimum of what XRP is classified as. I'm hoping that we get some sort of clarity there, and that Judge Torres does something she's not required to do and states that current and future sales of XRP, obviously not illegal securities transactions. We want that, but all of that is going to impact the SEC's approach. So even though they would undoubtedly appeal a decision that's negative for them, it would also change their mode of attack, the degree to which they're going to attack. It will impact their strategy negatively for them, which means positively for us. It's just kind of a question of how that's going to unfold. But they've got some serious stuff in the works behind the scenes. That seems very clear, just listening to the words coming out of their damn mouths. They're going to be suing United States-based cryptocurrency exchanges. You better believe that. I will not be surprised to see a major rollout of that in 2023. And so I think Attorney Deaton was right. So, of course, they move faster because of the Ponzi scheme, but I still think Attorney Deaton's right. Even had that not happened, Even if we saw this happen in 2023, then you could say, okay, fine. Then he, under such circumstances, he would have gotten the timing wrong, but who cares? It's not that, it wouldn't even be that off. And it's still, it just seems so obvious that it's going to occur. I'd be shocked if that didn't happen because I'm listening to them. They're saying what they're going to do effectively. We just don't know who they're going to sue first. Will it be a bunch of firms at once? Will it just be one like Coinbase because they seem like an obvious one to move, publicly traded company? Well, we're going to see, but I'm just saying, Attorney Deaton's right. Even though this wasn't the reason that he was expecting this to happen, he's right that exchanges are going to continue to get attacked. So the point being, every single crypto that we hold, from my perspective, is under attack. Except for maybe you could argue not Bitcoin, because there seems to be no desire from any government agency to actually stop Bitcoin itself, which is great. I don't want that to happen. So that's good. But I feel like everything else that I hold, it's that much more risky to hold because of Kim Jong-Ginzer and the rest of the cronies in that particular government agency. Piece continues. He also says that the trend of crypto exchanges proving they have reserve assets to back up their customers' funds means nothing, as the practice doesn't live up to current regulatory disclosure standards. Quote, proof of reserves is neither a full accounting of the assets and liability of a company, nor does it satisfy segregation of customer funds under the securities laws, end quote. So look, this is going to be about the only thing on the planet that I'll agree with Kim Jong-Ginzer in terms of these proof of reserves reports that are coming out from all sorts of exchanges. They don't paint the whole picture. It's more about crafting a narrative that will hopefully pass the smell test of their customers. But in terms of, doing a full deep dive in terms of liabilities, this or that, no. Like, for instance, Binance isn't even doing it. The world's largest exchange by volume, they're not even doing it. It's just they're crafting a narrative. And so it's just, I don't like agreeing with Gary Gensler or anything. I really do not. But on this particular point, I do think he's actually right. I feel dirty. I haven't even said that. I'm going to have to take like 3 showers after recording this latest room temperature jam. That's definitely going to have to happen here. Anyway, piece continues. According to Gensler, regulators should focus on making sure crypto firms separate their funds and their customers' funds, as well as keep accurate records of all transactions. Quote, there are some in this field that have talked about ways to give customers confidence that their crypto is really there. They should do that by coming into compliance with time-tested custody, segregation of customer funds rules, and accounting rules, end quote. So look, I don't know that, because there aren't specifics even there in terms of what that would mean. So I'm not saying that I agree with Gary Gensler even on everything having to do with this. I'm just saying in a general sense on whether or not proof of reserves does a damn thing. The answer is pretty clearly no. And then there's this story from the Daily Hodl. Former Alameda CEO admits to using FTX customer deposits to repay loans on risky investments. Report. Caroline Ellison, the former CEO of Alameda Research, says the trading firm made short-term and open-term loans worth billions of dollars to pay for its venture investments. In a transcript of her guilty plea shared by Inner City Press on Twitter, Ellison says she agreed with others to pay for the loans by borrowing from sister company FTX. Quote, while I was co-CEO and then CEO, I understood that Alameda had made numerous large illiquid venture investments and had lent money to Mr. Bankman-Fried and other FTX executives. End quote. Yes, so this is a repulsive individual, Caroline Ellison. She knew what she was doing. It was wrong and illegal and can result in destroyed lives, and she didn't give a damn. She just did the thing. My God. It's just, these are such awful people. And you know, if you were to meet them in person, I'm sure they'd seem even pleasant to be around. Some of the, if you look at them, look at both of them, it's like, they look like the opposite of threatening individuals. I mean, come on. Sam Bankman-Fried with his cucumbers and stuff, like, I'm not threatened. I'm really not, come on. But they're awful creatures who destroyed people's lives the world over. They're absolute monsters. Piece continues. In and around June 2022, I agreed with others to borrow several $1 billion from FTX to repay those loans. She says she was aware that FTX would use customer funds to lend money to Alameda. So think about this. SBF is still insisting he didn't know this. How is that going to pass any sort of test of any sense in the courtroom? How is anyone going to believe this? You have Caroline Ellison admitting, no, we all knew, of course, we were doing terrible, horrendous things. At least she's admitting it now. But damn, SBF still isn't admitting this. Who's going to fall for this? He's going to jail for potentially the rest of his life, if not decades. Here's another quote. I misunderstood that FTX would need to use customer funds to finance its loans to Alameda. Most FTX customers did not expect that FTX would lend their digital asset holdings and fiat currency deposits to Alameda in this fashion, end quote. Yeah, I'd say more like none did, but hey, you're getting closer to the truth. According to the former executive, Alameda had a borrowing facility on FTX that uses the funds of the trading platform's clients. Quote, I understand that if Alameda's FTX accounts had significant balances in a particular currency, it meant that Alameda was borrowing funds that FTX's customers had deposited on the exchange, end quote. Yep, pretty obvious what's going on here. Allison's guilty plea transcript was released and docketed after former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried was freed on a $250 million bail. Yep, that's right. And so he's out and free. Without putting down an actual dime, by the way. Put up the parents' house as collateral, which was allegedly, reportedly worth $4 million. So it's just a tiny fraction of the $250 million required. It's amazing. How is this real life? What a crazy freaking story. There's going to be so many movies about this. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Family Sedan.